and the public is provided an opportunity to comment at each meeting. Business items are presented by staff or consultants, and after the committee discusses the business items, the public is invited to formally comment. If everybody has the minutes from the past meeting, were those distributed, John?
They were not. I did not have those ready for the meeting. And actually, let me just check who we've got. So Bob Sherrill's on board. Catherine Hensley is there. Boy, that was fast, Catherine. To Joe Michelle 3. Richard Heath 4. Okay, no, we still don't have a quorum. So I guess we can dispense with the approval of the agenda. We don't have any minutes for this particular meeting to deal with. So I guess we're at you're at business item 5.
All right, taking up business item 5, expected actions of the Freight Advisory Committee. I encourage, any members of the public or, people on the committee to reach out to me after the meeting, and you can discuss what items you'd want to have at the speakers or what information you'd like to gather from the next meeting. Other than that, I think that we should just move on to informational reports.
Okay, Joe, maybe I know you don't have a quorum, but if you could maybe take a count of noses to see what the preference is in terms of meetings, whether you prefer the online version or the meeting at the permit center, if there's a strong preference one way or the other.
I have a preference to keep these meetings online. That way people can just log in from their desk. I think we'll have enough trouble with participation that we shouldn't make it another obstacle of getting over to the permit center. Does anybody on the committee have a differing preference? All right, well, it's my intention to continue meeting via Teams then. That way everybody can just meet up from their desk. If there's a need for us to meet in person, or if there's a necessity because of the way a presentation might be held, we'll make sure and get it out to the folks. But other than that, we'll keep to online meetings for the time being.
Okay, can you see the agenda on the screen? If I put the right thing up, let me try again. Because we did, looks like, yeah, that looks like the agenda. Okay, anyway, someone wanted to see the agenda. Okay, I'll take that off and maybe turn it over to Lori for the Seward to Glen Highway Pell update.
Thanks, John. I'll actually turn it over to Kelly Summers, the DOT project manager, to start us off.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kelly Summers. I'm the project manager with the State of Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities. Thank you so much for giving us time on your agenda today to talk about our Seward to Glen Mobility Project. We're very interested in your unique perspectives on this project. And I'd like to make everybody aware this is a joint project between the state DOT and our municipal partners with AMATS. And with me today from the consultant is Lori Cummings. Lori is a senior planner with HDR, and she's the lead planner on this project. So with that, I will turn your attention to Lori. Thanks, Lori.
Thanks, Kelly. I'm going to share the presentation. Did that work? Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes, we can, Lori.
Perfect. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having us. We wanted to talk to you today because freight is a very important component of the Seward Glen Mobility Study, and we wanted to make sure that the Freight Committee and the freight community had an opportunity to participate. So I'm just going to go through a brief presentation providing an overview of the project. I know some of you are already familiar with it, but I think it's new to some of you. And then kind of talk about where we are now. Sorry. Oh, there we go. Yep. Sorry, I haven't presented a PowerPoint via Teams before, so the technology is a little different.
It's always the first time, right?
Exactly. So, all right. So this project is looking at the Seward and Glen Highway corridor. So as you can see here from all of these different plans, this corridor has been studied numerous times over the past 50 years. And we've never really come to the best solution as a city of what this corridor needs to be like in order to meet all of our different transportation needs. And that's a lot of our problem is this corridor is expected to provide access for like local businesses. It's expected to provide access for vehicles as well as non-motorized users such as bikes and pedestrians. It's also a freight corridor. So we're asking this one road system to meet a lot of different needs. And so over the years, we've come close. We've done a lot of work to figure out what exactly does this need. And currently, DOT is developing a planning and environmental linkage study to help really hone in on what do we need now for the next 20 years. So specifically, our study is to identify and evaluate options to improve transportation mobility, safety, access, and connectivity between the Seward Highway near 20th Avenue and the Glen Highway east of Airport Heights. This project will also be looking at ways to improve access to and from the Port of Alaska to our highway network. So this map here kind of shows our study area. It basically goes from the port down to Chester Creek and over to Burgaw. So I'm sure many of you are wondering, what is a planning and environmental linkage study? This is a type of study that's for federally funded transportation projects through federal highways. Previously, a lot of transportation planning projects were done, but they were not coordinated very well with the environmental and public review processes required by NEPA for design and construction processes. So a planning and environmental linkage study is meant to combine those two efforts so that decisions and analysis that are done during the planning stage can be brought forward into the NEPA stage. This is achieved by doing certain things during the planning process to meet NEPA standards, mainly providing public notice and involving stakeholders, tribes, and agencies in the planning process. There are many benefits of doing this PEL process for projects. By including stakeholders, tribes, and agencies early in the process and repeatedly throughout the process, we can get their input on key decisions and help identify sensitive environmental and cultural resources during the planning project rather than later, during design or when construction has already started, that may cause, what the project needs to be revisited. It can accelerate that project delivery because the decisions we make early on can carry on over the life of the project. And it provides us with a lot of flexibility. We can figure out what is the right size of project without all of the constraints of NEPA or specific project. We don't have to worry about a certain 5-year time clock to finish a NEPA document. It just gives us the flexibility to look at what the project really needs. There are many opportunities for the public to participate in this PEL process. In this PEL, we've had multiple public opportunities. We've had public meetings. We have public meetings during each phase of the project. We've had newsletters. We have a website. We provide email updates. We've established 4 specific committees to get input into the project. We have a community advisory committee, which is represented from the community councils and very specific sectors of the community. We have a technical advisory committee. We have a resource agency and tribal committee, and we have an executive committee because we are trying to make sure all the different user groups of this corridor are heard. And all of the stakeholder input is being used to shape the solutions. We've taken the input that we've received to develop the draft purpose and need statement. We'll be using it to develop our range of alternatives, and we'll be using it to develop the recommended alternative or alternatives that we end up selecting. The project team has been very busy over the past couple of months and have done a lot of work accomplished to date. Some of the things that we've done included a traffic forecast technical memorandum, which forecasts traffic on the Seward and Glen Highway corridors in 2050 based on the Department of Labor and Workforce Development population projections. We have also done a basic description of the environmental setting report. It's kind of like the affected environment section of a NEPA report, it looks at what environmental resources are in our study area and what we should be accounting for. And we have also established a travel demand modeling methodology memorandum and an origin destination study methodology memorandum. And those are two documents that we put together so we could communicate to everybody what methodology we're going to do for those two specific studies. We have also done a lot of public outreach. As you can see here, we've tried to outreach to as many different groups as we can. We held a virtual public meeting. We held an online open house. We sent community emails. We had Facebook posts. We had 2 information kiosks. We placed newsletters. We've been trying to tell everybody about the project. And so as part of our first public meeting, we had people could submit comments through that process, and we received a grand total of 419 comments. And they kind of focused on the following themes. A lot were about environmental, transportation, traffic forecasting, environmental justice, non-motorized, and different alternatives that people wanted to see as part of the project. So what we are currently working on now is actually conducting the origin destination study and the no-build 2019 and 2050 travel model runs. So those are really looking at where traffic is going to and from in the system. The origin destination study looked at where people are actually going today based on like Bluetooth technology. The 2019 and the 2050 travel model runs are to help us predict where are people going to be going in the future based on where people live and work. We're doing a system performance report that helps us look at how is the existing system performing. Does it meet our standards? Are there areas we need improvement? And then we're working on the draft purpose and need statement and the screening criteria that determines how we're going to evaluate alternatives. And all of this is going to be presented at public meeting number 2 that we'll be having in approximately, exactly 2 weeks. So the public meeting number 2 will be on May 25th from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. in the Fairview Rec Center. And there will also be an online option. So if people would prefer to log in, they can do so. So this is our overall project schedule. We've divided up into 6 stages. And right now we're in stage 3, which is that purpose and need and evaluation criteria. So that's what we're going to be working on right now. And the next stage that we'll be working on is alternatives, development, and screening, and then finalizing the documentation. Those next 2 steps are going to take approximately 2 years, with the project wrapping up in spring 2024. So what I would like to get back is some input from the group about what are the specific freight issues and needs for this study area.
And before we get started, I just want to say hi, I'm Josie Wilson. I'm your public involvement lead for this project. And I want to do a shout out to Joe. Joe serves on our community advisory council as well. So hi, Joe, and thanks everybody for being here. As Lori mentioned, it's important to us as part of this project to know what issues and needs that you have in this corridor for specifically around freight.
Well, would you?
I'll put the map back up so everyone can see that.
Yeah, I was about to say, go back to one of my first questions is the study area is so much larger than the corridor that you have on another slide. Why is the study area so much larger than the corridor that you guys are identifying as something that is in the study?
Our study area is a little larger because we are looking at parallel routes. Because a lot of people are choosing to bypass the Seward and Glen corridors, like they're using 15th or using 3rd or trying to get around a lot of the congestion that we have. So we're trying to make sure that when we're looking at solutions, we're not just transferring the problem from somewhere else. We're taking the traffic that should be on, national highway system is going on the national highway system. So that's why we've made our study area a little larger than purely just the corridor.
Another question that I have is there are 2 separate studies going on down by the port area. And, they're quite large and encompassing as far as redoing the roads down there. Are you working in conjunction with that study, or is there any information that you guys could probably glean from that study as you study the exact same area?
Are you referring to the Ocean Dock Road project?
Yes, ma'am.
right?
That's one of them,
So-
yeah.
Yeah, we'll be looking at that as part of our solutions, but this project is actually looking a little at a larger perspective from that, because we could be looking at things like a new road to the port, you know, some access that doesn't exist today. So we're trying to figure out what would that better solution be. And it may be improving the existing road system, but at this point, everything is on the table about how we can improve access to and from the port.
I'll leave room for anybody else to ask a question, and then I'll have just a couple more of them. All right. One thing that I definitely would like to say is one of the toughest intersections for a truck to get through is where Ingra meets 6th Avenue or where Gamble meets 5th and 6th Avenue, whether you're coming in from the Glen and wanting to get onto the new Seward, or if you're trying to get off the new Seward. Those two intersections have been identified as some of the toughest ones to get doubles through, period. So I definitely like to call attention to those two troublesome intersections as far as trucks trying to get, you know, in and around there. And that's, you know, why they end up taking some other routes, just because hanging a left or a right onto or off of the Glen is a doozy. So I definitely would like that noted.
Right.
Richard, Mr. Heath, I mean, you as a logistics pro in this area, do you have any comments, or can you identify some definitely troublesome areas that we get freight through?
Actually, looking at the study area, I'm a little bit curious. I know it's a connective between, so we're connecting the port area as well as the Glen to the Seward Highway, but most of my concerns for as a stakeholder come from Ted Stevens. That's where the majority of all the small package, all the freight and everything that we deal with comes through. So I don't know what considerations are being made from the airport going both south and north, since we send drivers from our location on both the Glen and the Seward from there.
So while our study area doesn't specifically include Ted Stevens, you know, if you have issues moving through this corridor, we definitely want to hear about them.
But yeah, majority of our freight that's going to Eagle River, Palmer, Wasilla, and the heavy truck freight that we send north comes up Ted Stevens and it goes through that corridor downtown to the Glen. The intersection that he's talking about on 6th and Inker, I'm intimately familiar with. Pulling a set of trying to turn onto the Glen with a set of double 45s is a nightmare. But yeah, just for us, a big part of what we're doing is not necessarily just the port, but that access from Ted Stevens through both those corridors and that congestion in the middle.
They are coming from Ted Stevens, whether it be, you know, the FedExes or the UPSs. They're coming from Ted Stevens and trying to get to that corridor,
Okay.
get out. So it definitely, I know it's not in that area of study, but to not factor in the freight that comes in from the second largest cargo airport in the nation, definitely, you know, I don't need to expand in circle and, you know, muddy the waters with the Ted Stevens, but definitely Ted Stevens getting to the corridor is a big thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's one reason why we wanted to come like to the freight committee, not just to the port, because we admit freight comes from a lot of different places and it goes to a lot of different places. You know, so we're trying to make sure we capture, you know, all of the concerns.
Yeah, and that freight from the airport is not going to go down. As you guys know, we have expansion plans in the works, so.
Yeah. Not to be a wise guy, but, you know, freight does come from a lot of different places, but it really primarily comes from two places. The port and the airport. So not to be a wise guy on that, but thank you for listening to, you know, our concerns about the intersections where Seward and Glen meet. That's something that's just a long-term thing that we've been aware of. Are there any other comments from members of the committee, and or if there's any comments from the public, please feel free to ask your question at this moment in time.
I do have a question. Did you consult the 2017 freight mobility study? I believe it included a listed priorities for freight projects.
Yes, we consulted that. I was actually one of the authors of that study, so I made sure we included all of that information.
Okay, good.
Right.
A follow-up question, and by no means do this is just, it's just such a nebulous concept of what you're studying, how big you're studying, and it's what's starting to shake out after all these meetings and all these comments and things of that nature? I mean, how is this plan starting to take shape? Are you thinking about, I mean, is this encompassing lowering the Seward Highway and putting, Northern Lights and Benson, elevated up? And there's been talk about that. I don't want to hold, your answer won't be recorded in stone, but what's shaking out with all these meetings? What are you guys looking at?
Right. That's one possibility, although our southern boundary is Chester Creek. So there was a separate project that looked at from Chester Creek south. So at this point, we're establishing our purpose and need, and next we will be looking at alternatives. And right now, they're all on the table. Some people have expressed interest in that, cut and cover concept of depressing the corridor. Other people have expressed a need for more surface improvements and more non-motorized improvements. So we're trying to get through all of those ideas, and through the next public meeting is we're encouraging people to give us more ideas so that this summer we can really come up with, the alternatives to be studied and what best meets our needs.
And Joe, I wanted to add, you will be hearing about the next public meeting, and we'd love to share that opportunity with this group as well when we do have some of those alternatives ready to present to the public for feedback. So please do be our conduit to this group and making sure folks know when that public meeting of alternatives are available, because we'd love to get feedback from the freight community specifically on those potential alternatives.
And specifically, we would like to know areas that you currently have problems that should be improved. When we have our draft alternatives, take a look at that and identify, oh, I'm not sure how doubles are going to get through this location, or we're concerned about this, so that we can make them better.
Is there a last question, then I'll let you go? Is Merrill Field owned by the municipality of Anchorage right now, or is it still?
It's
I
owned
read
by the
somewhere
city.
that it's owned by the city.
Yes.
Okay.
And the Merrill Field manager is on, I believe it's our citizens committee, to make sure that we get their concerns addressed as part of the project.
And we have a representative on our CAC, our Community Advisory Committee, from Merrill Field as well. But this is all great. And Joe, don't ever stop. We still, if we could take another minute or two today, if it's okay, Joe, with you and others, we want to hear what concerns you have, or what issues that we should be considering, needs that we should be considering, because as we're preparing for this public meeting and we have a purpose and need, we want to make sure that our freight community needs are incorporated as well.
I think the things that we outlined of factoring in freight that's coming outside of the corridor from Ted Stevens inside the corridor is very important. Identifying those two intersections where, the Seward and Glen connect, that would be a game changer for freight. And always, I make this joke, and I'll say it again and again and again, what's the weight restriction on the Dalton Highway all the way up north? Well, it's the Chulitna River Bridge just outside of the Mat-Su. And, what's the height restriction on the Dalton Highway? Well, it's, the Eagle River Bridge. And I don't think it's actually the Eagle River Bridge, but that's, something to take into effect when, we don't know what's going to be coming out of, from, the Kenai and what needs to get all the way up north. So always keep in mind those height restrictions and those weight restrictions. And yeah, just don't put something too low, because we don't know what the future holds and what we have to try to get through there.
Definitely. And if we try, call us out, say we're concerned about this, so that we can take a look at it.
So if you're working with the Ocean Dock Road Study folks and just remotely, coordinating that way, we use our research dollars the best we can. I wish you the best of luck, and I'll be staying with you guys throughout this whole process.
Joe, this is John. What was the other study or other project you were referring to when you started your comments? You said there were two. One was Ocean Dock, and what's the other one you're referencing?
I'd have to get the name of it again. It was specifically the on-ramp, not the on-ramps, but the sweeping roads that, kind of come off that are elevated or going down is what they were studying, right to that intersection.
Yeah, okay.
And
I'll try and track down the status on that one for you. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll just conclude by saying, thanks everyone. And if you have any other questions or comments, don't hesitate to reach out to the project team. We can share a copy of the presentation with everyone.
yeah, if you would, Lori, if you would send that to me and I can get it out to the rest of the committee members. And Joe, with your approval, I know that Terry Linseth, who's with the airport, was not able to join us today, but I don't know if it's more appropriate for you to reach out to her, or I can tell her the gist of the conversation today and have her call you when appropriate to talk about the airport. Maybe you're having those conversations already. I don't want to get mixed up in that if you have, but if you do need some facilitation on that, be happy to do that.
I've got her number. I'll give her a holler.
Okay.
And I just wanted to say for everybody, obviously we've got, Joe on our, contact list for updates on the project, but Lori's showing right here. So I'm not sure that I have Catherine. I don't know if you're on here and you're getting those, but please don't hesitate to let us know if you'd like to be added to our email communication list or even receive physical mailing. Just let us know your address and we'll happily add you to our contact list.
All right. Who's online did all the members of the public have wanted to weigh in on anything in regards to this project? All right, with that, we can move on to Destination UMED. John, are you taking the reins of this, or who's taking the reins of that part?
That's me. And so thank you. I'll just take a few minutes. Again, my thanks to HDR and their team for on short notice agreeing to meet with the Freight Advisory Committee and presenting today. So we really appreciate that. So the Destination UMED is a brand new project. I don't have a formal presentation to give you right today, but I will by the August meeting, I think, which is the third one, third quarter meeting. And because the project will be sort of well underway, but the Destination UMED is an outcome from the UMED district plan that was completed in 2016. And one of, I think it's goal 5, I believe, 5.4, talked about conducting a study to look at a follow-up study to look at the mobility within UMED, both and coming into and out of UMED, and particularly with the major institutions here. So you have Providence, and you've got 2 universities, and you've got ANTHC, the Tribal Native Health Consortium, and so there's a lot of changes going on actually in that area as we speak. Several of those institutions are completing or in the process of doing master plans, and which I think is timely. A lot of it, part of it is because they do those master plans on a regular basis, well, every decade or so. But because of the COVID situation, that did change traffic. As it's been alluded to, the freight has increased from the airport to various destinations within the city. So, UAA is looking at a major revamp, as well as Providence, and I think APU as well is in that process. So we the Muni selected a consultant, Nelson Nygaard, a national firm, and one of the areas that they conduct the studies on is transportation demand management, or TDM. And so we have a 14-month project working with Nelson Nygaard to look at UMED in depth, and then come out at the end of it, hopefully at the end, I think it's June of next year, April, May, June, with a set of recommendations that can be implemented, because we don't want to have another study just sit on the shelf. But there's, given the interest in UMED by both the public as well as institutions and the freight industry, this is a perfect time to take a look at how to improve the mobility of that area. And we're having our first committee meeting coming up on the 23rd through the 25th, and the consultants are going to be in town. They're going to be doing a site tour. They're going to be talking to the advisory committee as well as the project management team, and also doing a site visit. So as I said, it's still a little bit early in the process, but I'm happy to keep the freight committee informed about how that project's going, and also getting input from your members, Joe, both the committee and the ATA, on any concerns that you might have about how freight interacts, either coming in, coming out, or through within UMED specifically, which is much smaller geography than what we just heard about, but a critical geography, because as everyone probably knows, it's the second largest employment area in Anchorage after downtown. So I guess maybe at that point I'll stop and try and answer any questions that folks might have.
Rookie move. Are all of these projects housed under the Muni as far as these studies goes? You said that, UAA is looking at mobility. I mean, is the hospital looking specifically at it? And are they going to put these recommendations towards AMATs, or are they going to, if it's their land, they're just going to carte blanche, put a bike path in or something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joe. So those institutions are updating master plans for their respective campuses, and mobility obviously would be one component of everything that they're looking at for their particular institution. Is kind of a broader, looking at facilities, whether it's roads, bike path, sidewalks, parking areas. Is there sufficient amount of parking? Some of them have surplus parking right now, which allows for further growth. And the potential for growth exists within UMED, as you probably know. The health industry has been a major growth area in Anchorage for the last few years. And of course, with the education sector, that's taken a whole new turn now with virtual learning. So those campuses are looking, what is the campus going to look like between now and 10 years from now? And do they need more buildings? Do they need to consolidate? So that information that relates to the mobility piece will be plugged into the UMED, the destination UMED study, and also what if it's available from them, because some of that is proprietary information on what their future plans might be, and how that would, so for example, giving a more of a concrete example, let's say Providence is expecting their staff to expand by 10% over the next few years. Well, how are all those people going to get to their facility? Do they have enough parking? Are there other options that their staff or patients can use rather than single occupancy vehicles to get into that facility? Would it be a bus? Would it be a ride share? Would it be Uber, Lyft? So yeah, that's all going to be factored into the UMED, and a piece of that obviously would be the freight piece. And I don't know yet, and we're hoping to hear, what's the impact of the freight in UMED? Is it a problem? Is it okay? Is it we're seeing more of these smaller vehicles, maybe shorter trips. That could, that all impacts traffic flow. So it all ties together. So it's kind of a long answer to your question, but the master plans are independent of the UMED study, but we're hoping that what comes out of their respective master plans that they can share with us will inform the UMED study.
So it looks like we're just waiting for them to turn in their homework, and then we'll be able to review it from then. Right now, we can get where we're going, so it's just be a concern if they want to put it too low of a pedestrian overpass down, or they starts, putting a bike lane where it's not supposed to be. So I guess we're just going to sit and wait on this situation.
Yeah, well, and in terms of projects, I mean, all of those, if a project does come out independent of the study, I mean, that still has to be reviewed by the municipality and get, approvals through that process. So that will be an opportunity to hear about that. But also, we're expecting to have a draft of this study by the fall, which will be probably between your third and fourth meetings. But, as information comes out that's available, it will be on our webpage. We're putting together a project webpage, and I'll be able to distribute it to each of you, all of you, and keep you updated on that. And yeah, it should be really interesting to see where this goes. Any other questions related to the UMED study that I can try and answer?
Members of the public, is there any questions that you have? All right. Without hearing any,
Okay.
Are there any comments from the committee just in general on something that you might want to hear about at the next meeting, or you receive an update on in regards to freight transportation in Anchorage? All right, we're going to get out of here in proper amount of time. We're going to keep this meeting under 45 minutes. It's great. I don't think I need to read the upcoming meetings and events. Everybody can see it on the agenda. What is the tentative third quarter meeting date, John?
Good question. Let me get my handy dandy calendar here so I don't give you the wrong date. So the third quarter meeting of the FAC will be August 10th. Same time, same place, and I'll set it up for Teams. And then just for calendar purposes, the fourth quarterly meeting is November 9th. So if you mark your calendars, August 10th, November 9th. And if something comes along, I don't know, just throwing something out there like with a tip or something that's maybe, you guys really want to talk about, you can always have a special meeting. But as you can see from the upcoming meetings and events, there's a lot going on, and just want to keep you guys up to date, up to speed on that, so you don't lose an opportunity to provide your input.
I did want to jump in really quick as we're wrapping up. just because of the timing of the next meeting. I'll be taking extended leave during that time for a good event, but I will be out for extended period of time. And I just want to make sure that as an alternate, Director Smith is listed to be able to sit in during that time if I am unable to make it.
Well, Catherine, since we just appointed you, and you can't leave this fast. No, I'm teasing. So yeah, having Dan back to fill in for you is certainly not a problem. I shouldn't speak for Joe, but I'm sure that will be. I'll just have to remember that to include him on the distribution of the agenda and materials. So, but if you can pass along those 2 dates, I don't know when you'll be able to come back and join us, but we're happy to have Dan come back, and so.
Yeah, August is going to be a very, very exciting time.
Yeah.
About a
Congratulations.
week off from when I know I won't be here, so we'll see how that goes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the committee members? Well, I'm not hearing any, Joe, and I don't see anything in the chat. So yeah, if you want to conclude at 3:40 today, that's good.
All right, thanks for the update. Mr. Taylor, as far as the statewide Freight Advisory Committee has a meeting planned for Thursday, June 16th. So we'll see everybody at that meeting. With that being said.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe, can I just interject on that point? I did reach out to the consultants for that project, for the statewide freight project, and they didn't have an update for me, but your meeting kind of fell, between things. So that next one will be, I should have included that on the list of meetings. But so yeah, hopefully you'll get a chance to provide some input on that, as I know several of the committee members are participate on that study. So anyway, yeah, I'm done.
All right. That being said, if there's nothing else from the public. All right, this meeting is, I'm supposed to wait like 20 seconds, I think is the rule. And that being said, all right, thanks a lot. You guys have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.